La evolución tecnológica es clave para la competitividad. Para destacar, las empresas tienen el reto de integrar sistemas complejos de manera eficiente y segura. Red Hat, líder en soluciones de código abierto, ayuda a las organizaciones a superar este desafío con tecnologías que facilitan la integración de aplicaciones, automatizan procesos y aseguran la gestión de entornos dinámicos, permitiendo a las empresas adaptarse y crecer en un mercado en constante evolución. Esto es Norte Digital, la primera serie de entrevistas en México producida por Grupo Financiero Banorte, que marca el rumbo de la transformación digital.
Hola, bienvenidos. Hello, welcome. We are here in beautiful Boston area with Matt Hicks, CEO of Red Hat. Thank you very much, Matt. Thanks for receiving us. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.
As you know, we created this space to talk with leaders such as you that are transforming the industry, not only from the technology perspective, but also from the cultural perspective. No, looking for digital transformation in different industries. So I think it's good to start to listen. Who's Matt Hicks? What are your challenges? What's your career? Where are you coming from? And then if you can tell us a little bit of the challenges that you have in Red Hat.
Well, I worked in some startups in school, but my first professional job was as a consultant. And I loved it. I did IT consulting, so I got to see the sales side of work, but then I got to experience how IT shops were run in a lot of different companies on it. And I moved from there into software development, both at IBM. So I moved from there to Red Hat. I went back to my roots in Red Hat. I actually started in IT. My first job at Red Hat was porting Perl applications to Java. That's what we went through. It was our first modernization of IT. And I spent a few years in that in IT and Red Hat, and then I moved to engineering. That was sort of always been my career path, from IT to engineering, and started what's known now as OpenShift. I think the challenge and opportunity, I'm a natural optimist on it. So any challenge, I think you can always reframe it to possibilities and opportunities, but we're at the beginning of a technology disruption with artificial intelligence. And we work quite a bit in the space, but it is changing how we run as a company and how we develop product and how we enable customers. I think AI would be a huge amplifier for productivity. And so I'm lower on the fear element. I'm higher on this is something really to embrace and shape and see where it takes us.
Going deeper in the AI, you have been using it in Red Hat for a long time. No, it's not something new now. Now that it's like a hype, and everybody's talking about that. But you have been using it for a long time. What are your learnings on that? Besides the optimistic part, that I'm also an optimist on the use of the solution, and maybe the second part of the question: what does the companies and the different industry needs to consider to use AI? Or let's say, what should be the guardrails that we have to put to use it in a proper way, but not waste time and waste money at the end.
To your point of before we were enamored with AI, we would have called it machine learning. And we had spent years, especially in our support areas, of essentially better search indexing. How do we put better answers in front of customers for them? And we used a ton of the technologies that would now be considered AI to do that. The change that I would see, probably overly simplified, is with large language models, they've changed the interface to that. They're very good at language, and so you can interact just as a human with a lot of these underlying capabilities that have been around for a pretty long time on it. And so for us, we're using those sort of in the human interface stage of it. How can we make it easier to search? Can we use large language models to understand your question better and to optimize those answers and those results? And it's been really impressive. It is at the same level of what people can often do in matching those answers. In terms of how we've approached it, and I think how companies have to look at it, I am not a big fan of most enterprises chasing what I would call science fair projects, of where the risk reward are extremely skewed. Maybe there's an upside to it, but it's extremely low probabilities of it working. We chase the boring use cases of, you could think of, if you can make IT tickets get answers to your associates better in your company, a company our size, we're 20,000 people on that, we will just, our profit margins will be better because of associate productivity.
Efficiency.
Not a super exciting use case. Again, it's like in the search indexing world, but you have this in IT and human resources, you have it in sales operations, you have it in operations and legal. Really optimizing those use cases, I think, is a great place for most enterprises to start before you chase the exotic use cases, because those do require talent and expertise, and they're nuanced. Whereas there is a low-hanging fruit group that we're attacking, and we actually have quite a bit of expertise in this area, and there's still plenty of runway with that. So that's usually where I tell customers is it might not be the most exciting place to start, but it is efficiency. And then with that efficiency, you're improving your margins. You can choose to invest it in areas in your business and domains that you.
No, I agree. And talking about this foundational part, you have been helping the companies in a very important process that is the resilience. What is your view on that? I mean, you with your tools, with your solutions, you are helping us, the customers, to be more resilient in our normal operations. What are your view on that? I mean, it's critical, obviously, but
it's a unique space in that I've seen IT from multiple different angles, and I think I'm sort of a back to basics person. I think the most important thing is with, in this environment, we're using technology more and more to progress our businesses. There's no use of technology that you don't continually maintain with it. I think most of the problems when we think of our subscription model and how we work, it is that constant ability to adopt updates in technology and maintain security, because to your point on once you know the base is working, you can do more complex and more impactful things. We really try to focus on keeping the base working with it. When you don't maintain the base, it comes to an end at some point, and it can be in a calamitous failure or something else. But we really try to make that base as easy to maintain on a really, really powerful innovation model as possible for enterprises, so they can do incredible things in their domain that we don't know as well.
In this world that with the technology that it's going so fast, it's at least from my perspective, it's impossible to do it alone. You need to create some alliances.
Yep.
You need to have partners, and those partners needs to help you to move faster in one or two or whatever processes that you are looking for. What are your recommendations for banks or whatever industry about alliances? Look for alliances. What should we be looking for? Long-term alliances, your recommendations.
I think a lot when you say the word alliance, like for me, I tend to think in terms of durability in it. Is this an alliance that I can count on for the next 10 years or so? Because if you put that investment into it, you want to make sure it has some substance or a foundation that you can count on for a long time. If you're having to shift alliances every year, it's probably not where you want to take inefficiencies. But to your same point, I think they are critical. At the end of the day, if you're a bank, you're not going to be an expert in infrastructure. You're going to need someone to ask. In the days of virtualization, for example, it was balancing compute and storage and network. And if you got any one of those wrong, you weren't able to run the number of VMs that you wanted to run.
You will not sleep.
Exactly, like you.
Calmly.
And you're wasting money and investment that's precious to you.
Now, in you as the CEO of Red Hat, you have a lot to say about the culture of the company. Mm-hmm. What's the culture of an open source company? What are the values that you are more concerned about? What are, I guess that you are completely focused on transmitting your optimism. Mm-hmm. And not my boss says I am an informed optimist. Mm-hmm. No, so, but what are the values that are important for you in the culture of Red Hat?
We talk a lot about authenticity of what you're doing, like really creating value, being curious, and being authentic in terms of how you're interacting these communities. Because when you're working with open source communities, there's nowhere to hide in it. Either you're adding value to them, or you're probably not going to be a great participant in it. I'm passionate about resilience with it, not just in don't let our software fail, but personal resilience. When I started in Red Hat, it was in 1801 Varsity Lane, and there was a sign that you walked into every day, and it said, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. And in open source, especially when I started, like the mid-90s, it was ignored, it was laughed at, it was fought, and then it's accepted. And being resilient enough to get through those stages, I talk with the company quite a bit about this. It's not just software development, it could be your next idea. They're not always going to happen on the sequence that you expect.
Going back to the innovation process.
I like the informed optimist. Like you can't ignore things that aren't working, but you also have to know where the value is, and then you have to be strong enough to sort of push it through those phases as well.
Yeah, I agree. Let me jump to the recommendation part, mm-hmm. Matt. What would you recommend to a younger Matt? You are finishing college, and you want to look for your first job. Yeah. You or the people that it's really happened, really living that moment. What will be your recommendation?
I think for me it would be always build depth in the topics that you get the opportunity to work within. And it doesn't matter whether you like the topic or you don't like the topic. Build depth. Become as much of an expert in those as you can. And if you get through enough of them, you might find something you love, or you might have incredible breadth on it. That's why I always loved IT, was because whether I liked the subject area I was supporting, I learned a tremendous amount in that. And then the second one I would say is while you're building depth, be patient as well for the right opportunity where you're not trying to force fit value. You can learn and you can be patient and wait for those opportunities to really then be able to follow through on where you think it is. I think that combination can get a lot of like early career associates through the chaos phase of AI to really be learning. And it doesn't matter if you're on the finance side, learn how you can apply AI.
Perfect. A recommendation for people that are starting a business, mm-hmm. startup, they are planning to start the business, or they are already starting the business. Yeah. What can be your recommendation for them?
The two things I would say, and I talk to a lot of them, is be clear in the idea or value that you see yourself creating. And then be really persistent at that. Not everybody's gonna agree with it. You don't have to have everybody agree with it, but you do have to have a point of view with clarity. But if you can have that point of view, you can be resilient enough to sort of get through the phases on it. I think that's a great combination.
Let me go to very fast questions.
Sure.
And tell me whatever comes up to your mind.
Okay.
What are the most significant trends shaping the future of technology?
I would say AI right now. Small model, actually small open source models in AI.
If you were Superman, what would be your kryptonite?
Apathy. I love passion. That's it, Red Hat. And I think the thing that bothers me the most is when people just don't care. That's not a good spot within Red Hat. You can care and be wrong, but at least be passionate about something that you're doing. Yeah.
Fail with passion.
Yeah, that's right.
What do you believe is the most underappreciated technological innovation?
I don't know if it's technology innovation, but the Linux community itself. The fact that we build an incredibly technical operating system from a tremendous amount of volunteers working alongside with professionals is staggering to me at the scale that is.
And we're not taking enough advantage of the.
Yeah,
no, you're right. What was the last book you read?
A non-technical book was a murder mystery called Songbird. And one of the more business-ish books was Moonshot of the Pfizer vaccine development.
Okay. What's the most surprising innovation you remember from when you were a kid?
It was probably the IBM 8086 computer. That, I think, is what sparked my path on technology. So I think I fell in love with that thing from the minute, I think I was 5 years old, 6 years old or so, and I still remember that to this day. Feel of the keyboard, drives, look of it, everything. Yeah.
I will ask you to give me a question for our next guest, but first I'm going to put you the question that our last guest, I was talking with Sonny Singh, he's the EVP of Oracle Financial Services.
Okay, yeah.
And a little bit talking about the alliances, he was asking about what are you doing with the ecosystem of technology companies beside or beyond your objective? Yeah. How are you cooperating with that ecosystem to help your customers?
Yeah, for us, I tell a lot of customers, like when we look at providing AI, for example, you might not be a direct customer of ours. You might not be training a model yourself or using it. In a lot of cases, you'll get that through another software vendor that we're working with. And that chain and ecosystem, we are investing as much in the companies to enable them to produce software as we're investing in direct enterprises to use it. And so I think that we are as partner focused as we've ever been. And it goes from the chip manufacturers, Intel, NVIDIA, AMD, to the OEMs who assemble those in machines, to the software providers around those, to the channel that sells and delivers them. So it's been a fun time to get to invest so much in that ecosystem around new technology.
Perfect. What can be the question that you can send us to our next guest?
I would ask them, like, what's the last experiment, consumer, individual that they did in AI that surprised them?
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. So thank you very much, Matt. Thanks for receiving us. Thanks for sharing all your ideas, your concepts, your lessons learned. It's very interesting to listen to you and listen what we are doing with Red Hat.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, coming out here.
Thank you, guys. We learned a lot about innovation, about artificial intelligence, culture, and I keep in my mind the resilient, the persistent part. First, they will ignore it.
Yep.
Then they will laugh. Then they will fight. And at the end, they will accept. We have to be so persistent to take our ideas to the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you.